You're listening to Passing Time, a Detroit Lions podcast. We're one pride and all grit, with a passion for Detroit Lions football. Whether you're between meetings, between classes, sitting in traffic, or just relaxing at home, if you have time to pass, pass it with Passing Time. Detroit Lions Talk.
Ooh-wee, welcome back. You're on the clock, and you're passing time with us. A Detroit Lions podcast. I'm Rob.
I'm Brian.
Episode number
55.
55, Brian. Training camp is here.
Hey, we're right around the corner, right on our doorstep.
The wait is over. There's actually real post NFL draft news coming out, Brian.
I am excited, and we took a little bit of a hiatus throughout this summer, but we are ready to talk about some Detroit Lions.
Brian's been spending a lot of time on the diamond, coaching multiple kids.
Yep.
When I say multiple, more than two, through travel ball and all-stars and doing all the things. And, I've been waiting in the wings, man. I've been sitting here in this chair on those nights waiting for him to call me.
I keep telling him, though, that phone goes both ways here, pal.
Oh, man. I only like to receive. I'll stop there. All right. So the wait's over. Training camp's here. But before we get any news out of training camp coming right up, we have some of the biggest storylines over the last few weeks. Some really interesting hot takes. Bill's even got some bullet points he wants to share with us tonight.
He's ready to rock and roll.
Yeah, so a fun podcast tonight. We're going to keep it, 35, 45 minutes, just like normal. And we're just going to the goal is here to just prime that pump, man. Football season, we're sitting here in Grand Rapids, Michigan, and the night is getting to 58 degrees. And I'm
starting to feel it.
Yeah, I'm starting to feel it, man. And it's it's bonfire weather.
Yep.
It's
sweatshirt weather. You don't have to sweat like crazy when you walk out the door.
It's inverse outfit weather. You know what that is? You know what inverse outfit is?
Shorts on the bottom, sweatshirt on top.
Oh, it's the
t-shirt on the bottom, jeans on the bottom.
Well, more of the shorts and the long sleeve top, but it's the inverse. You're catching along here. It's the best kind of outfit.
Mm-hmm.
So we're fired up, and we're gonna kind of kick it out with some lighthearted stuff, and then get into the deeper stuff a little bit later on. So. B. Mikes, are the Lions right now, as we enter camp, are the Lions entering their best era of football?
It's a question mark right now, and for me, that's hard to say yes. Why? Because you remove a guy like Frank Ragnow from your offensive line, which you had one of the best offensive lines in all of football, and you replace it with a Graham Glasgow last year, and then you try to rectify that with a Cade Mays this year. It's a to be determined right now. So, in my opinion, are we entering the best era? I'm hopeful. But right now, we still got some proving to do.
Well, Brian, you were just, you're a hedger, right? You should go run a fund in New York. It would be called a hedge fund because you're not willing to commit either way. But there's no doubt the Lions are fired up. They're piss and vinegar coming off of last season. And this is, from the looks of it, probably, when healthy, we're talking mid to late season, the best looking roster I've seen from the Detroit Lions.
Yeah, the offense for sure. Offensive side of the football, you look at that top to bottom, and you're like, okay, I'm excited. I'm excited. You talk about the Cade. I talk about the Cade Mazes, and the question marks there, but what they've done to revamp that O-line and the tools and weapons that they continue to bring out there, it's going to be scary. Jared Goff is rolling into the prime of his career. Amon-Ra St. Brown is not backing down. He is, whether you want to argue or not, a top wide receiver in the league.
No doubt. Don't argue that.
Right?
Like, save your arguments for something else.
Sure. JMO, like, can you find another a better wide receiver 2? It's debatable that he might be one of the best wide receiver 2s in the league. So you look at that, and then you add a Tesla who is going to come into year 2 looking strong, continuing to grind out his craft, right? To get better. And a healthy Sam LaPorta, a bell cow that will be Jahmyr Gibbs. This is looking good.
Brad Holmes has transitioned now from drafting and building stars and trading. You got Goff trade, but building stars to now building depth around those stars, which is very, very interesting. You have Detroit's core. You mentioned Goff entering his quarterback prime, but you have, and that's older for quarterbacks, but you have the core athletes on the roster entering the prime of their athletic careers right now.
Yeah.
The expectation from us fans, it's hard coming off a really tough season last year, but like the expectation isn't to make the playoffs like it was for decades. The expectation is to make the Super Bowl and
win
the Super Bowl, right? Like, so that's great. I mean, this roster it just feels deeper than any roster that we've had of the Dan Campbell era. And the Dan Campbell era has been the best era of Detroit Lions football in our lifetimes. And Brian's going, his doctor said he's of the age to get a colonoscopy now, right? So of our lifetimes, if you are of that era, of your just being recommended, no medical, no family history, but you have reached the age of, I don't know what they do. You fast, and they give you this magic elixir, and you get rid of everything, and then you get something shoved high and deep, right?
Yeah.
So in that era, Brian, we're in the golden age.
And it's hard to argue. I mean, if you see a winning season from your 2026 Detroit Lions, then you're looking at a Lions roster, a Lions team with a Lions coach, and a Lions ownership that is all heading and rowing in the right direction.
When you see the winning season, you will know.
When you see it.
And I think, it's burned the boats. It's burned the boats this year. And the Lions are, they gave up some of the media sessions. They gave up, there's no hard knocks videotaping. There's no dual scrimmages.
Yeah, you're not seeing the
practices.
fluff. You're not seeing the frills. You're not hearing Dan talk all about, highly about all of his players and the UDFAs that they brought in and the quarterback threes who are making you turn your head. You're hearing that this team is willing to get to work and they're doing it the right way.
You know what it reminds me of, Brian, and if you're listening to the podcast and you've gotten to know me over the 1+ years, or maybe you know me in RL, which the kids call real life.
Yeah.
This reminds me a lot of. I'm a Michigan fan, right? So this reminds me a lot of Michigan football. Hired Harbaugh. The hype train was crazy. He signed a couple recruiting classes. One being like the top one in the nation. Is the year they brought Rashawn Gary in and a bunch of these guys doing signing with the stars and doing all these fluff pieces. And then, the year of COVID, Michigan goes like 3-6 and they opted out of a bunch of games. They were just terrible. And Harbaugh was humbled and he just didn't think this was going to happen. So he decided, no fun signing with the stars. No
Ric Flairs.
No Ric Flairs in the crowd, man. And he just kind of submarined it and locked it down. And what emerged was beating Ohio State, getting to the playoffs, winning a championship, and kind of holding to that same pedigree and integrity. And I kind of feel like the Lions went through the same thing in a different stage of life where they they started reading the clippings, started buying the hype, started showing up on every commercial, doing the things, and then they got humbled last year, and then it's been quiet. And I think what's going to come out is a caged raccoon, that you're going to release to the wild.
I like it, and I hope so, because what we saw last year was not what we've come to know from the Detroit Lions. That hungry, gritty, wanting to scratch and claw for every yard kind of team. It almost seemed like a team that was deserving, right? And they expected it to be given to them because they made it. And now it's a team, like you said, that's been humbled and needs to get back to their roots of blue collar, nose to the grindstone, getting after it, fighting for every yard, and doing it the right way. So
I love that. And this transitions perfectly into kind of the next topic I want to talk about. Is ESPN just put out a kind of a rankings for talent under 25, and Detroit's been well represented. They do this every year in this ranking, and this year, when I say well represented, they've been in the top 5 pretty much every single year here. And that's hey, cheers to Brad Holmes.
Yeah,
that means you're drafting well, kid. All right, so this year we're in the mid-20s, Brian. Does that sound alarming to you that we are in the mid-20s of talent 25 and under?
It only alarming when you think of the youth, right? But your youth it's not old. Your youth right now is, like you said, in its prime. So what we need to do is continue to draft well, and I'm hoping that we are doing so. You got your Blake Millers, and you got guys coming out of the woodwork that hopefully are going to take on those roles and take over for that youth movement. But right now, our best guys like a Penei Sewell are 25. They're not under 25, but they are 25.
Aiden
Hutchinson's.
Brian Branch can't qualify because he's not on the active roster.
You're
Jameson Williams, Sam LaPorta.
They're all right there at that 25. They're not old. They're in their prime. And so when you are looking at a team that has the youth as well as the experience, this is where it crosses, and this is where I think that we start to bypass some of those other teams that may have a youth and talent, but we have youth, talent, and experience.
So would you rather have the NFL's best collection of 22-year-old talent and show up on one of these charts, or would you rather have some of these guys aging into their prime and maturing in football?
Right now,
that's a rhetorical question.
Right now, what you want is this. You want guys that have been there, have seen it, both the good and the bad, and know how to come across and get out the other side. So,
yeah, amen to that, brother. All right, so we're gonna this is gonna be a little bit different show. We're gonna pop fire around here a little bit, Brian. I want a couple little takes from you.
Okay.
I want a couple position groups here that you think are the biggest camp battles that we're going to be podcasting about over the next few weeks.
Sure. Well, number one, top of my brain right away is that left guard position, right? Is Christian Mahogany the guy? Is he going to lock it down, or are you going to get guys like Miles Frazier, Drew Scruggs, or Ben Barch, to push Christian Mahogany into either being a better version of himself, or are they going to overtake him?
I think we will be happy if Mahogany wins it, and he wins it going away, right? But you do hear things like Drew Scruggs can really move into center. He could play left guard, right guard. The dude can be a chameleon on the offensive line if we need him.
Sure, and you want that depth, but do you want that guy starting?
You probably don't want him starting. Maybe I think the most likely thing you hear here is Miles Frazier is a beast, and he's really challenging hard for that guard spot.
Yep,
right?
and that's the most likely scenario if a scenario like this comes out, right? Is it Miles Frazier turns into a late round draft that is just blossoming, right? He got a year of experience, he got a training camp under his belt, he's healthy, and he is ready to start mashing some faces. So
yeah, I like that a lot. So what about as we're entering camp, Brian, what are some matchups that you're just kind of like, man, like, and maybe it's not a fair matchup. Maybe it's not a matchup that like you think, who's going to win this? Is it like the immovable force versus the unstoppable object? But just like, if this guy goes up against this guy, I want feedback on this guy. Just
Sure.
to kind of, you have anything that jumps up?
I mean, the first thing that we've talked about, and I think that jumps off the page right now, is we've seen the Aiden Hutchinson, Penei Sewell, Penei's right tackle, Aiden Hutchinson off the edge, but now Penei to the left. Does that mean a Derrick Moore, Penei Sewell matchup? Are you going to see Penei Sewell humble Derrick Moore, or are you going to see Derrick Moore win some reps?
Yeah. The tough thing here, I guess, let me ask you this, and then I'm gonna respond to this because I don't want to give away what I think is a good piece here. If Derrick Moore wins 25 to 35% of these snaps, what's your reaction? Because there's a position switch in a rookie.
I'm not gonna lie, I'm concerned about Penei Sewell a little bit more than I'm impressed with Derrick Moore.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. That's very fair because you took a guy that was a perennial All-Pro.
Yep.
And you flipped him, right? Like everything was great over here. You know, like you had everything good, and then you changed him up, right?
Yep.
Or should you be thrilled that Brad Holmes unearthed another guy, traded up for another guy that's going to come in and be a difference maker in potentially year one?
If that's the case, and you're saying that Derrick Moore is overproducing, overplaying Penei Sewell, he's outplaying Penei Sewell, that to me is that's an amazing find, right? Brad Holmes, here's your flowers, and let's get a few more of those things. But I'll believe it when I see that.
Yeah. All right. Put me down for, I don't think you can mess Penei Sewell up. I think and you can always make that transition back, right? Like you can be weak at left tackle with somebody else if Penei's struggling over there. To me, it's a very good sign that Derrick Moore has found a way as a rookie to be the guy that's been on all pro teams, maybe playing slightly and learning again, but he's not played left tackle either. Right. So I think it's a good sign. We'll see. So that being said, let's stick with the defense here. Kelvin Shepherd, is the defense quietly changing?
I hope so. And the reality is I think Kelvin Shepherd needs to be able to morph and redesign itself into what they have. They can't force a square peg into a round hole. If they don't have the guys that can play primarily man, if they don't have guys that can play your base defense, then you have to be able to adjust and play with your strengths. And this is going to be crazy, right? This is going to be something that I think might be hot takey, but bringing in a Drew Petzing, who, if you go back in pods, I was not terribly excited about when the initial signing there, but bringing in a Drew Petzing and having that mentality in the coach's room where, hey, I'm going to play to my strengths. I'm going to do what it is. If that means I have 3 tight ends, I'll run 13 personnel. If it means I have 1, I'm going to run 11, right? So ultimately, I'm going to do what's best for my team with what we have, and I'm going to find the matchups from what I have in order to exploit the other team. I'm hoping that type of mentality rubs off in order to have Kelvin Shepherd to go, like, I don't need to run man 90% of the time. I don't have to stick into base. If it means that my personnel says I go to nickel, I go to nickel. If it says that I go to base, I go to base. If it says I go to man, I go to man. If it says if this game says I have to go to zone, I'm going to zone. That's what I want to see from Kelvin Shepherd. I want to see a chameleon. I want to see a master of all, not just one piece of that defense. And if that's able to happen, that's exactly what I think needs to happen from the Detroit Lions.
And I think they've empowered him. I think they have more depth, better depth than we've seen in years. I feel like the personnel they're bringing in seemingly is more athletic. they're taking chances on guys with like profiles that are first round type profiles that haven't worked out in other places, that are uber athletic, that they can plug in and maybe they can fit a role in this defense, and then they can bring this depth off the bench for certain situations.
And that's where the mastermind needs to come into play, because it's going to take a ton of organization. It's going to take a ton of coaching, and it's going to take a ton of responsibility by the players in order to put those pieces directly into the puzzle that they need to be into at the right time. Because you take a misstep here and there or early on, and the crowd starts chirping, I don't want you to have to revert back to your old ways and lose your confidence, right? Stick to your guns, find what works, and get after it.
Oh, man, we're getting fired up, folks.
Yeah.
So let's step away from the Lions a little bit. Let's talk about next line.
Okay.
All right. So did the Texans accidentally validate Brad Holmes? So there's a report today that came out, and you can look it up, where the Houston Texans basically said Woody Marks and David Montgomery are the starting running backs, and they're going to split time, and they are the new version of Sonic and Knuckles. So let's just step away from that. What's your instant reaction to that?
My instant reaction is that David Montgomery was still happy with Sonic and Knuckles. What David Montgomery was not happy with was just Sonic. And so I think the problem with last year
Wait, he was Knuckles.
I understand that.
Okay, all right. Well, I digress.
I understand that. So what happened last year is you lost the Knuckles portion of that duo.
Oh, okay, I see.
And we were leaning more and more and more on Sonic because we have a star in the making, and you lost your duo, right? So I think David Montgomery is very happy with being a duo. What he doesn't want to see is a solo act, and he's not the lead in that solo.
Yeah, okay. I get it. Sorry to front run you on that one.
No worries.
I just think this is a very interesting story that came out today. We're recording this. This is Wednesday. We're chasing midnight here, Brian.
Yeah.
And Woody Marks, if you look at PFF, and I did a quick pop on this, PFF ranked David Montgomery much higher than Woody Marks last year.
Like you look back on our pods, man. David Montgomery's the man. David Montgomery is an amazing back who is an amazing complement to a guy like Jahmyr Gibbs, right? The problem is that we weren't giving him his due. We weren't sharing that role, and I think a guy as talented as David Montgomery wants to be featured. He wants to be given some of his flowers, and when he doesn't get them, he's going to get disgruntled. And I think that's what happened. So
I mean, Isaac Pacheco came in, right? Mm-hmm. Or Isaiah Pacheco, sorry. I apologize on that. We were talking a lot about your son Isaac.
Yeah.
He came in, and if he can be I think the Lions are at a point where Sonic is, he put him up on stage, and he sings so well. He does all the things so well, and it's hard to take him out, right? So, maybe we just need a backup Knuckles, right? But we got something for him, right? Brad Holmes went out, and there's not a lot of people trading for running back twos out there. You pull the list. Please feel free to comment for a different GM that's traded their second running back for assets that are actually impactful to the team.
Right.
There's not a lot. So that came back. And what I think is Montgomery maybe was viewing himself as a traditional RB1, a 25 carry a game workhorse. And the Lions were playing him very well, like Jamal Williams. I mean, the Lions had a really good role for him. He got upset. And I wouldn't be surprised if Pacheco, who's here on is a 1 year, is a 2 year?
Just 1 year.
If he ends up going somewhere else after this year on a decent, because the Lions will plug him in the right spots, and teams will see a revival of a dead asset.
So do you think, like based on that, do you think David Montgomery's career is on the downslide, such as what happened to Jamal Williams when he left Detroit?
I don't think it's going to be Jamal Williams-esque, where you basically put him on the back of a milk carton, right?
Yeah.
But I think that the peak of David Montgomery's career was the 2024-2025 season.
Yeah, I can see that. I agree. I do think that David Montgomery has more in the tank. I think he has more to offer the Houston Texans than Jamal Williams had to offer the New Orleans Saints. And I think right now, I think Isaiah Pacheco is a lesser, like you said, a lesser back than David Montgomery. Maybe a version of that. But I think Isaiah Pacheco also is going to be happy with his role. He's hungry for that role. He is not going to be disgruntled with the role that we will be giving him. In playing sparingly, but also contributing to this Detroit Lions team.
And I think the kind of the word on the street with the Pacheco contract was like he had other teams willing to give him a little bit more, whether that was money for 1 year or term. But he saw the Lions as a potential launching pad for continuing his career a couple more years. And man, if it works out for him, that means it works out for the Lions, right?
Yes, absolutely.
What a great signing.
Yep.
And Brad Holmes talked about that. We put this on a pod, go back to like somewhere in our mid 40s podcast. We talked a lot about Brad Holmes' interview where he talked about free agents that leave Detroit. And because we've drafted so well, we've done such a good job with free agency that like we can't re-sign everybody, and that's a compliment to really he wanted to say to himself, but like to the franchise, to the organization, where some of these guys are going to go on and get bigger contracts again, or third or second contracts, where we can't retain everybody.
We can't retain everybody. We do have to go in some of those contracts within our restraints and find guys that are cost effective, find guys that are hungry, find guys that want to prove themselves. And I think that that's where Brad Holmes makes his money, right? Not only does he make his money with some of those draft picks, but he also makes his money by signing some of these guys like Al-Kahim Muhammad, who comes out of the woodwork, who has been discarded by other teams, but is put into a proper role and coached up by this great coaching staff in order to produce in a team like Detroit.
And just drafts well. You know, he certainly some misses, but selfish plug, but I think Jimmy Rolder and Keith Abney are going to be guys that we talk about. And I didn't even want to bring those guys up. But I am as high on that area of the draft as I've been in a long time.
Is it because Roller's a Michigan guy?
Abney's an Arizona State guy, right? Like, so we're just talking about finding value in that draft.
Yeah.
And I can't wait to revisit it, Brian.
Yeah, I'd really like to recap after this season.
Episode 75 is going to be a great episode.
But if you go back, like we're still looking at a couple of drafts ago and going, man, is Ennis Rakestraw going to produce? We know Terrion Arnold is no longer part of this team anymore. You know, that draft class is still like hurting this team.
I want you to go back and revisit draft classes, right?
Yeah.
Draft classes are a lot like starting pitchers in Major League Baseball. So you can win a Cy Young, and you can go, 17-9, right? And win a Cy Young. You could be in my profession and be a stock picker and a portfolio manager, and you can go 17-9, and you're a Hall of Famer, right? some people are so hard on their GMs. The draft is such a crapshoot. Even in the first round, you get past the top 10 picks, and it's
hard.
It's hard, right? So revisionist history is so easy. Our armchair GMs, you and me, we sit back, and it's just so hard.
And I'm not going to say that I disagreed with him in the moment, because you looked back at being able to move up and get a guy that was dropping a little bit but still had value, especially for the Detroit Lions, like a Terrion Arnold, and then backing that up with another guy that you knew our DBs at the time needed depth, needed resurgence, needed a youth movement, and then he goes back and gets an Ennis Strakestraw, who we thought could also combat for a starting role, right? And so all of these things were happening in the moment, and I was in 100% support of that. But now looking back, you're like, oh man, we missed. So
yeah, it's tough to hit them all. So with that, let's transition here, Brian. I'm gonna let you lead this segment here. But
Bill's back. And he's got some bullets.
Hey, welcome, waking up from the dead. It only took us being off for a couple weeks.
Sure.
And he jumps in. So what's Bill got to say?
Oh, Bill's excited just for football, right? Bill's excited for training camp to start. He's looking at guys like Anthony Lucas and Eric Hunter to compete.
Don't mind me.
To compete for those spots, those edge rusher spots, not because they have to start, but because they're pushing veterans to be better. The iron sharpening iron, kind of steel sharpening steel, and it's a great sign for depth across the board here. So, you good?
I'm letting you lead this. Yeah, go ahead. Continue on.
All right. He's also looking at guys like Levi Onwuzurike and questioning, is this a guy that's a cut candidate because of his contract? Is this a guy that we are going to see on the 2026-2027 roster, or are we going to try to save a few bucks? Because if you look back when Levi was on the field, statistically we were so much better. So we have to ask ourselves, are we going to see a Levi Onwuzurike who's healthy and productive, or is one of these younger guys going to beat him out?
I mean, Levi shows a lot of athletic traits, right? Like, he's got a lot of things that you're like, man, don't give up on Levi, right?
Yeah.
Like, he can play multiple positions in the front. He's explosive. He kind of he's a multi guy, and if you're transitioning this defense, like, he really fits that. But if the depth looks so good, we're not going to be beholden to that either, right?
Right. I want this defense to be as best as it possibly can, and statistics show that when Levi's on the field, we're better. So that's where I'm standing. I would want to see Levi on the field. I want to see him producing, and I want to see him healthy. So,
well, I mean, you get some pass rush on the interior from him. Solid against the run.
Yeah.
Right. And I mean, yeah, he didn't get a lot of snaps either, right? Like, we had depth.
We had depth, but he was able to play inside and out. But now we're looking at a healthy Ali McNeil. We're looking at Tyreek Williams in year 2. We're looking at hopefully guys like Derrick Moore and Aiden Hutchinson who are healthy on the edges. And, where does that put Levi, and what kind of role does he carve out for himself?
Yeah, I think if he's the first guy off the bench in the interior, what a blessing he is. But there's some competition there too.
Sure, but you lost guys like Roy Lopez, and DJ Reader is gone, and so ultimately, hopefully, we need a guy like Levi, and he is able to fill that void. So
no doubt. So where's Bill take this next?
He takes it down to the tight end position. And if you know Bill, and you've talked to Bill, all Bill wants is a big, bruising, blocking tight end that can rumble his way out there and catch a pass or two every once in a while. He loves a Sam LaPorta, but he also recognizes that Sam LaPorta is more of a pass-catching threat. And we want guys that allow us to put guys in binds and run the ball. So Jackson Meeks, a wide receiver converted to tight end. Is this guy going to be what Bill wants? No, he's not. He is a light in the pants, not a 270-pound rumbling, blocking tight end. But he is a guy that makes you question, like, what kind of role are we looking at the tight end position? And where does that put guys like Tyler Conklin or Brock Wright? You know, is a Jackson Meeks going to compete with those guys for a tight end 2 or 3 spot?
No, I think, you know, Jackson Meeks is going to compete for a roster spot first and foremost, right? Like, that's the first thing you look at. And if he makes the roster, he's got to be a special teams guy.
He will, and he did.
Yep, that's what he's held his hat. And also, he's going to be a guy that, like, you sneak into certain situations, you know, let's just say 3rd and 6, and it's a passing down, and you need to convert. And you will show tendencies of, like, this is what we do on 3rd and 6. And maybe he can block well enough to get one of those tendencies. And you can show that. And also, you can break that tendency. You can send him out there. Sure. And you can exploit a mismatch. And that's a guy on your team that maybe you don't necessarily have.
Yeah. And we have to remember, like, Jackson Meeks is a UDFA, right? He is not a necessarily sought-after guy who didn't necessarily make it as a wide receiver, but had some skills. And in preseason, made some catches and made everybody excited. But ultimately, you know, he is not a matchup nightmare. He's not a Tony Gonzalez or Rob Gronkowski or a Travis Kelce. He is a converted wide receiver. Yeah. You know, a UDFA at that.
Jackson Meeks, congratulations. We've given you more airtime than any other podcast. Moving on to another guy that we're going to get more airtime.
Oh, what about our QB3?
Luke Altmyer, who I watched in the Big Ten, and the dude is he's a gamer.
Yeah.
Right? He's an absolute gamer.
And this is what we're hearing coming out of practices and coming out of, you know, training and working outs and the mini camps. And is he going to compete with Teddy Bridgewater for QB2?
Altmyer reminds me of John Kitna, man. He will put his head down. He will rush for those tough yards. It won't be a slide with your feet. It'll be a dive with your face. He makes some tough throws. He stands in the pocket. He just gets licked. He's not a big guy. Stands in there, gets up, does it again, and he has all those traits that, like, I think that, like, Dan Campbell's like, man, I can see why they called him and they probably begged him to say, hey, we didn't draft you, but we want you on this team.
Sure. So if he continues to play well, where does that? What kind of bind does that put you in? Is that a roster spot? Is that a hopefully he gets to our practice squad? Is it or do you carry 3 quarterbacks?
Well, the new rule now with the emergency quarterback situation is, like, you can kind of carry 3 quarterbacks without hurting your roster.
Sure.
Correct me if I'm wrong here.
I'd have to look. Let me look into that further, and we'll update this. But I still think it doesn't.
It's kind of the Brock Purdy UCL rule, right?
Yeah.
Like,
I think game time, yes, you can have 3 quarterbacks on the sideline without that 3rd quarterback impacting the roster.
The 55.
But if you keep a 3rd quarterback, he still competes or still holds a spot on your 53-man roster.
Okay, all right. So, you know, Teddy Bridgewater, you know, if we're counting on Teddy to get us through a series, great. And I want to count on Teddy. If we're counting on Teddy to get us through a half, I want to count on Teddy, right? But if we're counting on Teddy if it's get us through a half season, like, I want to turn the page to Luke Altmyer and be like, all right, what do we got here?
Fair enough.
Because we're already kind of like saying,
yeah. But does that mean that one of your 53 is Luke Altmyer and the hopes that Jared Goff does not get hurt?
Well, our hope is Jared Goff doesn't get hurt.
Regardless, right?
this podcast, this season is contingent on
Jared Goff being healthy, playing a good top 10 QB season, if not better.
It's crazy to say this, but like he's like by far the most important person on the Lions roster, and it's really not close.
It's not close. It's not close. Like you look at even like Jahmyr Gibbs, right? You know, your RB2 is Isaiah Pacheco, but even that you start to think about like we can make that work. We can pass more.
The Chiefs won the Super Bowl when when Pacheco was their RB1.
Right.
So like, yeah, not ideal, right?
Not
like
ideal.
But like you can do that.
You can make moves in order to fill that in. Like you lose Jared Goff, are we searching for Joe Flacco to make it to Detroit and fill a role? Because I'm watching. Listen, man, I'm watching quarterback on Netflix. It's great, and Joe Flacco's to be a guy that I like, but he is a journeyman at best right now. So
yeah,
and old.
He's old, and I think it's Goff or bust with this Lions roster, and he's in his prime, and it's one reason that we've invested so heavily in offensive line.
Yeah.
Right? Like,
yep.
So anyways, Bill, rounding out a couple things, he says Jadeveon Clowney is still available.
Still there. Wouldn't be mad about it.
But knows it probably won't happen.
Probably won't happen.
Yeah. So, whatever. This reminds me of Smoochy. You have to go back to understand that in this podcast. So, Montgomery has a couple words on Montgomery.
He's still convinced that David Montgomery trading Montgomery was not the right move.
Yeah. Bill doesn't like these, and the baseball's doing a lot, NFL's doing a lot, but these early signings. So, like, guys in a rookie deal, you come in a little bit early, you feel like you're getting a discount. They feel like they're getting a raise. We get a little bit extra term. What's Bill's take on that?
He wants to sign a guy based on what their future predicts, not necessarily what they did in their past. And I think that's what players and their agents want to do is like, hey, this guy was an all-pro, Kirby Joseph. We got to pay him like he's an all-pro versus, hey, in the future, he could take a dip, and that's retrospect, right? That's very hard to predict. And not only that, but you want to make a player and their agent happy in the process of re-signing these guys too. We want to give them their value, but you don't want to overvalue. So that's where he's talking about.
I mean, it's like so obvious to me.
Sure.
Obviously, I want production if I'm going to pay you, right? Like, but obviously, you gave me production, and I feel like I need to pay you for that, right? And there's got to be a blending of the middle. Otherwise, another team will get that. So what happens with guys getting contracts is you probably underpay for the first half of the contract. So if you're reluctant to give them term, this conversation doesn't matter. If you're giving them term, you are underpaying for the first part of their contract, and you are way overpaying for the later half of their contract. And we all know this. This is what happens.
Yep.
This is the way contracts work. Is like the guy wants term for a reason.
Yeah.
He's like, hey man, like you gotta pay me. I'm in my prime. I know my agent knows that like once I hit 29, we know 29-year-old wide receivers don't get money. So I want 29, 30, and 31 kind of guaranteed in big dollars. And it's just like, if we don't give it to you, who will, right?
Right. But at the same time, right now, when we extended Amon-Ra St. Brown, and he was the highest paid wide receiver for all of 6 minutes, it seemed like a lot of money. But now we're looking back at that value that we got Amon-Ra St. Brown for, and we're happy we signed him early. We're Hutchinson can be put in that same boat. We're happy that we signed him for this because now that edge money is continuing to grow. So
I don't know if you put Hutch there yet, right? Like he's still kind of got I think he will.
Sure.
I think he will earn it, but like I don't think Goff's contract looks pretty good right now, right?
But then you question mark like Kirby Joseph. We did the same thing for Kirby, and he didn't play last season. So for every
Penei, looks pretty good right now on paper, right? Like
even Jared Goff looks pretty good right now, right?
There is no doubt on that. So like it's not. Listen,
it's not a perfect science.
No, it's hard. Art meets science, and there's a Venn diagram, and they blend in the middle, and it's very, very difficult. And GMs everywhere have to try to figure out the art and the science. And also, you go back like the Lions on a lot of these free agent acquisitions. Let's look at Pacheco. It's 1 year. We didn't give him term. Other teams probably would have gave him term. So don't discount your GM because there's some instances where there's a lot of guys that we're signing for 1 year contracts and we're re-signing for Rock 1 year contract. Like we are putting these guys on here and like we're trying to retain them, but like we're not giving them term, which gives you optionality to give guys term in the future.
All right. So what do you do with Jahmyr Gibbs?
Well, Jahmyr Gibbs, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, he's age 24, turning 25 this season. You give him absolute term. And you pay the guy probably $22 to $25 million a year. Ladies and gentlemen, the pendulum is swinging back. Running backs were here a long time ago. Think about Emmitt Smith. Barry Sanders.
Thurman.
Thurman. I mean, you go, it's here, right? And then all of a sudden, the pendulum started swinging way in the other direction. Running backs were a dime a dozen. Don't give them term. Don't give them money. We'll plug in a rookie. We'll wear him down for a couple of years. And, tip your cap to guys like Saquon and guys that have really like McCaffrey that have really in their later 20s have carried the torch and said, if you are a really good running back, you are still a difference maker. And that pendulum of getting running backs on the cheap is we're in the middle zone right now. Like it's not expensive yet, but it's kind of like the housing market, right? Like you go back to 2011, you could buy a house for this, right? And we all remember that. And you get a mortgage rate for this. And now we look at houses and it's like, man, like it's really expensive to buy that house. The mortgage rates are really expensive. Are they? Relatively speaking, mortgage rates are 6%. Historically, they're 8%. Housing was just depressed, and now it's catching up. Running backs are right there right now, and I think you respect him, you give him the loyalty, and he's 24 going on 25. Like, you still have 5-6 good years, and you pay the guy.
And that's what I'm saying, too. And not only that, but he is not a Bijan Robinson who you've leaned on for the last several years in order to be the bell cow. He was sharing a role with guys like David Montgomery up until now, and now you're starting to lean on him. So now are his best years where you might still have some longevity there.
Yeah, Algier got some run over in Atlanta and too much run for some people's sake.
Yeah.
But I know I got a little long-winded on that, but I just think that like Gibbs is foundational and he's of the age to give term. So if you can get a few discounts now on dollar amounts for term, I think it's a fair trade-off, and they're dancing around that right now.
Sure.
Bijan Robinson and Jahmyr Gibbs and their agents, they're trying to figure it out. And
who's going to blink first, and and which one's going to get paid because the next one can get paid just a little bit more. So
yeah, it's interesting. I'm pro give him the contract. I don't think this is a Miguel Cabrera type contract. I think this is I still think it's almost like Kevin McGonigal type contract, where he's young. You gotta, it's Kevin McGonigal plus. You gotta pay him a little extra, but like this is the prime. You're buying the prime of the career, and you gotta pay extra for that.
Fair enough.
Fair enough. Yeah.
Fair enough.
So, let's go, Brian. Let's shoot the script, right?
Yeah. All right.
Let's just talk local Detroit stuff real quick. All right. So, Yzerman out. Thoughts?
As painfully as it hurts, I wanted Yzerman to succeed. He didn't, and it's time to move on.
Yeah. All right. Just simple as that.
Simple as that. Like, hopefully for me, there is still the ability to mend ties with Dylan Larkin, that he can stick around and be, whether he's the captain or he sees that we're trying to surround him with good talent.
Yeah, I kind of view Yzerman as he's like, if you're building a house, he's a really good contractor that just was spending way too much time tinkering around with the foundation and the walls, and you just wanted to move in, man. And it's just like, dude, like you gotta figure this out. And it's like it wasn't. It's like, you know what? There's some other contracts.
They're going to move faster. They're going to do just as good of a job.
And we want to move our family.
And it's time to move in.
We want to make the playoffs. So, all right. Detroit Tigers. Two questions for you, Brian.
Okay, 2.
All right. So, first.
Playing great baseball.
First, are they going to percentages that they're going to trade Derrick Moore?
So, I think they have to. I think they have to trade School.
I was not
expecting that?
No, because I had my own vision here.
I told you.
Yeah.
Like before this, I'm like,
right.
What if I say the same thing that you want to say? And I think they have to trade him. I think they have to get value out of him. And if he wants to be in Detroit, we re-sign him in the offseason. If he doesn't want to be in Detroit, he's off to the LA Dodgers, and it is what it is, right? But you need to get value from him now. I don't believe the Detroit Tigers, as good as they're playing right now, are a World Series winning team. And because of that, you get value.
Potentially a package that is franchise altering for the next 5 years,
yes.
Right? Like, so like that's a big deal. So
and not only that, but they got some young pitching talent that right now is being successful.
I mean, you look at really, you take Derrick Moore out of the rotation. You got Melton, you got Montero, who are pretty dominant right now, right? Like you got Mize, you got Jackson Jobe, who is a top guy. You got Reese Olson, who's been injured all year long, right?
And you're not even talking about your top paid guy.
You got Framber Valdez, who's got multiple years of term on that contract, right? Like, so you could actually still make the playoffs. You could thread the needles, and the Tigers did this in 24, where they traded assets, made the playoffs, and made themselves better for future years. That was the year they traded Jack Flaherty to the Dodgers.
Yep.
Anyways, that's interesting. So with that being said, are the Tigers, are they going to find a way to backdoor themselves in the playoffs?
Yes.
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 So, hey, we buried it. What are we? We're almost an hour into this podcast, and we buried the hottest take of the podcast right for the very end.
I think with with the Tigers playing the baseball they're playing, they're relying on good pitching, and not just Derrick Moore pitching. They're relying on good pitching across the roster. I think that their detriment right now is in the bullpen, but their hitting is coming on, and their defense is starting to play like we know they can play.
Yeah, man, that's beautiful. And I think they don't make the playoffs.
Okay. Are you saying that just to be controversial with me right now?
Partially. I think they're playing great baseball.
Yeah.
I think they're going to sell Scooble. I think that affects the clubhouse.
Do you think they sell Casey Mize too?
Well, Casey Mize right now is on the IL, the 10-day IL,
Okay.
and they got to get that guy healthy.
Sure.
So Mize is an interesting one. If you lose Skubal to free agency, you get a first-round pick. Also, if you lose Mize to free agency, you get a first-round pick. So, in bargaining for that, the team that trades for Mize has to understand that if they don't re-sign him, they get a first-round pick. So what you get back in return is Mize plus, right? Like you have to understand, like, if we just hold this guy, I think they should try to re-sign Mize. And I don't even think we talked about Mize when we talked about starting pitching earlier, and we got to 6 without even talking about Mize. So you get Mize plus a first right now, right? So, and whatever team does that, they could send him a qualifying offer, and they get a first-round pick by just not re-signing him. So he gets a decent return. So I would like to re-sign Mize if we can get him for a decent deal, especially if we're not going to re-sign Skubal. Mize is who he is. He's going to be a 2-3 starter. He's a Framber Valdez equivalent.
Yep.
And but man, we found money with Melton.
Yes.
We found money with Cater Montero.
Yes.
And what we saw glimpses of Jackson Jobe, it's like, okay. And then Reese Olson, when healthy, he was arguably the number 2 last year.
Right. So we got guys that allow, crazy enough, the best pitcher in baseball to be expendable.
In the Tigers draft strategy, I don't know if you looked back and did the recap, but the Tigers drafted a lot of college arms, which is interesting because in the past they've drafted high school arms and they drafted college bats. So it tells me that they're thinking they're gearing up for this window, right? We talk about windows all the time. I think the Tigers think that they have the start of something here, and they want guys to come up and be ready, and not in 5 years, but in 1 to 2 years.
Yeah,
and that's interesting to me, and that's my take on the whole situation.
Fair enough.
So, that being said, we appreciate your patience with the podcast. Life gets busy sometimes. We went a whole year with basically never skipping a beat. I mean, I was having a kid getting called to sit in this chair and do a podcast. So we took a 3-week hiatus. We did, right?
We did.
So if you're still listening to this one, if you have my personal number, text me and be like, hey, man, I listened to the whole podcast. I heard your message at the end. 2, if you don't have my personal number, just comment at the end. Hey, listen to the whole pod. It was good. I'm subscribed. I listen, and I sent it to my aunt who might like, talking about the Detroit Lions or maybe the Tigers.
Yeah.
That being said, stay gritty. Go Lions. See you next week.
That's the plan.
Let's go.
Let's go.